I can't do the Wookiee noise at all. But when it's a day like today, man, C-Man had to, put the Wookiee onesie on, do a really bad Wookiee cry to start this Margarita Monday. It's a special Margarita Monday. So special, I've got my Empire Strikes Back Luke Skywalker Coca-Cola glass. See him with Yoda, R2. On the back, there's some Luke information. And I drink my margarita from this glass because it's a very special Margarita Monday. It's May the 4th. If you know anything about May the 4th, you know it's Star Wars Day, baby. And, deriving from, May the Force be with you. May the 4th be with you. And a happy May 4th to all you guys out there. And happy Margarita Monday. What a perfect combination of two things I love, Star Wars and margaritas. And you put them in a Luke Skywalker Empire Strikes Back glass, you're ready to go. Oh, I love Margarita Mondays. And considering that it is May the 4th, I thought, why not talk a little Star Wars for this week's Margarita Monday Meetup podcast. Now, unfortunately, the only person that's going to be meeting up here will be me, myself, and I. I have no guest this week on the Margarita Monday Meetup, but that's okay because Star Wars is one of my favorite things to talk about. There's so many things you could talk about when you're talking Star Wars. More than enough things for me to dive into over what will most likely probably be close to about an hour or so. So I said, you know what? Rather than bringing somebody in and me probably just stepping all over them because I'm going to want to talk Star Wars on May the 4th, the C-Man is just here by himself. He's got some notes. He's got a little topic, a little subject matter to talk to you to celebrate this May the 4th. So why don't you pull up a chair, man? Take a seat. We're getting ready to dive into a top 10 list for the old C-Man, and we are going to dive into my personal top 10 favorite Star Wars moments spanning all 9 saga films. Now, not all 9 saga films are going to get into this top 10, but it's a pretty diverse selection when you look at what I got going on here, man. And this is in no way, shape, or form like a definitive list. This is just moments that I love, man. The moments that get me excited when I see these movies. When I go on these, 24-hour marathons to watch all 9 films. The things that get me jacked, man, that get me hyped. And if you know anything about me and lists, I'm not trying to give you just 10, man. I got 5 honorable mentions. There's so many good Star Wars moments, man. I was on the internet pulling up, like some lists just to kind of like get my thoughts in order and be like, oh, this moment definitely needs to go here. This moment goes here. There are lists that are 50 moments long. There are some that are in the 30s. There are so many Star Wars moments over these 9 iconic films. Ooh, I'm getting so excited. Need to sip, calm myself down, man. But there are so many tremendous moments throughout the course of the Skywalker saga. And I figured before we really started diving in to my top 10 moments in the Star Wars franchise, I'd give you my 5 honorable mentions. And the main reason that I am rocking my Chewbacca onesie right now is my number 1 honorable mention. I wanted it in the top 10 so bad, but there were 10 moments that I was like, you can't really put it in front of. But right below that top 10, man, it is just a personal favorite of mine, and it comes from the Rise of Skywalker. And you go, what for shame, Corey? Your 11th moment from the Rise of Skywalker? Yeah, man, there's some cool stuff in this movie. But Rise of Skywalker gave my dude Chewie the medal that he always deserved. Now, granted, it's Han's medal, which is even more emotional, man. When that moment hits in the movie, I immediately started tearing up. I was like, oh my God, they gave Chewie the medal. And then you're like, wait, where would they have gotten the medal from? Oh my God, that's Han's medal. Like, all the emotions start hitting you. And then what's great, one of the things I love that JJ did, he just kind of slipped it right in there, but didn't pull a lot of attention to it. As you're getting ready to head into the credits, you get this real big wide shot, and Chewie is standing talking to C-3PO, and he's looking at it like, can you believe it? They finally gave me a medal. It took 9 movies, C-3PO, but I got one finally. And that, just seeing the excitement that Chewbacca has, makes it one of my all-time favorite Star Wars moments immediately, because we all know at the end of the original Star Wars, Episode 4, A New Hope, everybody gets medals, but Chewie doesn't get a medal. Why didn't Chewie get a medal? Why? Because he's a space dog. Space dogs don't get medals. That's what A New Hope told us. Rise of the Skywalker told us otherwise. Told us that our space dog companions are just as deserving as everybody else to have a medal. That one just got me, man. I was like, I gotta put that in the honorable mention category, just to talk about, my boy Chewie getting himself the medal he deserves. I'm gonna take this off. It's warm out on the East Coast. And it's very hot inside this thing, especially when you're rocking a Chewbacca-length beard. But don't worry. The Star Wars just keeps coming for the old Seaman. If you know what's good for you. Boom, I got my pew, pew, pew. Little, I'm sorry, the pews, they always get me. Pew, pew, pew. But I got my pew, pew Stormtrooper shirt on. And just a side note, and it's not an honorable mention, but just something that I love that these movies recognize is that Stormtroopers have no aim. Like, ever. They always miss. I've been rewatching all the movies with my parents, because they had obviously seen the originals. Saw bits and pieces of my Star Wars movies, the prequels, and then they had none seen any of the new ones. So we've been going on this nice little rewatch journey. We're going to end the night tonight with Rise of Skywalker, because that's on Disney+. Gonna peep that. I'm really excited and maybe a little nervous to see what their thoughts on, because if you've seen my review on the Rise of Skywalker, I loved it because it's a ton of fan service, gives you all the feels, all the moments you want, like that Chewbacca moment. But like you got to take some leaps and some bounds and some stretches for that movie really to work from a plot standpoint. And my dad's a stickler for plots, so I'll be interested. I'm gonna have to preface going into the movie, be like, look, this is a spoiler, and it's gonna be spoiled within the first 2 seconds of the film anyway. But the Emperor is alive, and why he's alive, and how he's alive, and what that all means. You just gotta go with it, or don't go with it. But if you don't go with it, you're gonna struggle with this movie. I'm gonna put that preface right at the top. But before I get there, man, gotta talk about my favorite Star Wars moments. So just the perfect type of thing to talk about on May the 4th. And as I said, Chewie getting his medal, it just makes me so happy. And then I just laugh always that all the movies, especially the ones that came after the Lucas movies, or even in the that they play into the fact that Stormtroopers have no aim. They're really bad at it. Get some really nice jokes in this fan-made series of films. The last 3, they're essentially fan films. JJ and Rian Johnson, fans of the Star Wars universe. I digress, though, but I do love me some Stormtrooper pew, 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 missing like crazy. They're never hitting anything. But anyway, I digress away from my honorable mentions, and shockingly, my second honorable mention. Need to take a sip of the old margarita there. I'm getting a little short of breath. Oh, almost got the hiccups. But we're going to stick in the, new Skywalker trilogy for my next honorable mention. And this one is because it's one of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie ever. And just one of the biggest, grandest gestures done in a way that is just so beautiful that only a filmmaker is going to give you a shot like General Holdo going to light speed right through those ships, man. Oh, dude, like when the Alliance in The Last Jedi is escaping away, and the First Order figures out that they're getting away, and they start shooting off all those ships. General Holdo, staying on the ship, herself after everybody's gone, says, "I'm the only one that can stop this, man." Laura Dern spins that bad boy around, aims it right at the destroyers, and whoo, light speeds. It's one of those, when General Hux realizes what's about to happen, he's like, oh no, they're not really boom, light speed. And the shot that Rian Johnson chooses to make, just drop all sound, complete silence, like if you were in space, and just let the visuals stand. And don't just show it to me once, man, because it happens so fast. Show it to me 3-4 times from different angles, and you're just like, whoa. When you're talking honorable mentions, things that leave your jaw hanging, that leave you going, wow, man, that was a moment. You got to mention those. And I thought it was more than deserving to be on my honorable mention list. Now, this is not like a specific individual moment, but it's probably the moment that all Star Wars fans get the most excited about when you're getting ready to watch a Star Wars movie. Anytime the movies have been in the theaters, it's at least a year, if not 2 or 3, before you're seeing a Star Wars movie. The anticipation builds and builds, and the spot in the movies where you're able to let all of that anticipation out is when that crawl starts, man. It's one of the most iconic things in movies. You say Star Wars, one of the first things you should think of is that crawl, that iconic Star Wars crawl. No other movie's ever done anything like that. And it is. It's iconic to Star Wars, and it is the moment that, as a fan, like you're on that 24-hour marathon. You're building up to the rise of Skywalker, man. All these years waiting to see how this whole thing is going to conclude, how they're going to wrap it up. What's JJ going to do? That moment of just release at the top is when that boom, Star Wars, and the crawl starts. It gets me every time. And it's the thing that gets you initially excited. And the one thing, no matter how many times I've been to a Star Wars movie in a theater, no matter how many different crowds I've been with, if there's one spot where everybody cheers, it's when that Star Wars crawl starts. And for me, even though it's different, it's a different moment in every film because it's giving you different information. That moment in general, what it signifies, just so important to Star Wars fans in general, man, myself included. And it is that moment where you're able to just, everybody at least once in a movie gives out a cheer, claps a little bit, throws a little applause. Woo! Let's go Star Wars! That's your moment to really get it out. And it's the thing that we look forward to the most. Obviously, I wasn't around in the 70s when the original trilogy came out, but that's the feeling you got watching anything about that time period. I remember going to my very first Star Wars movie ever, The Phantom Menace, and when that crawl popped up, I got jacked up, and I've been doing it for every movie since then. And it's just one of those things you look forward to immensely. So, of course, the Star Wars crawl was going to be in my honorable mention list. And you're hearing, some of these goody goods. You're like, what are the top 10 going to be? Don't worry, we'll get there, man. We'll get there. It's Margarita Monday. Gotta enjoy the margarita while we're talking about Star Wars on May the 4th. Which leaves us with just 2 spots left for honorable mention moments. And number 14 is a sequence and a moment that, as a Star Wars fan, you love because you're finally seeing your triumvirate, man, your trio all together. And it's when Luke and Han go to save Leia. They put on the stormtrooper outfits. They're in a little hallway shootout. And as they're going, they're blasting their way through. They get to Leia. They're out. They get pinned down. And it's one of these moments that just, like, immediately, like, if you hadn't figured out what Carrie Fisher was going to bring to Princess Leia, this moment where both of the guys don't know what to do. All these later shots are going. They're hiding. What does Leia do? Grabs the blaster right out of Luke's hands. Blows a hole into a grate. And leads us to the garbage trash compactor sequence. But in that moment, she was like, we needed somebody to save our skins, right? Leia just taking that command. If we ever got to see Lucas do all these movies in a time where we would have seen more of Leia as a commander, that would be the moment you look back to and go, that's where it started, man. That's where she found all that leadership and where those types of things started to come about for us, right? Obviously, being raised as a princess probably taught those things. But for us, the viewer, the first time we really see her take on a leadership, kind of position outside of, like, sending the message off with R2 at the very, very beginning. So when she blasts that hole in there, man, you get to see Leia save the day for a hot moment. And it was awesome. It's one of those things I don't imagine even back then, even more awesome because she would be used to the guys always rescuing the damsels. And here's, boom, Leia. I'm no damsel, baby. Give me that blaster. I'm going to shoot some cover fire. I'm going to blow a hole in this vent. I don't care what you say. You're getting into the trash compactor right now. And it's just a genuine moment between all 3 of our main characters, and Han, Luke, and Leia, that like, it just kind of brings them together in a way where you're like, you're starting to feel that chemistry, the way they kind of vibe and how they play on screen. And we all know that would just lead to things that we love with all three of these characters for, all three movies and the movies that they were in beyond that. And that's one of those moments, I think, that's defining to who Leia's character is, and just a moment that I always enjoy, because you're like, here it comes, man, like, she's going to show all the boys what to do, and I always love that, man, because I always love me some Princess Leia. So that leaves us with one honorable mention spot left, and you go, where do you go, man, for your last honorable mention? How about to one of the most beautiful Star Wars bits of Star Wars, you know what I mean? Like, Star Wars is about wars in the stars, and one of the most perfect space battle sequences you'll ever see in your life comes out of Rogue One, above Scarif, as the Alliance shows up and starts to fire off, on the Empire. And all the Empire, ships and battle cruisers and things that are there. As that goes on, man, that whole sequence is just... It was like that first time in a movie theater, my mind was legit blown. I was like, wow, that is the quintessential look to a Star Wars fight, man. The way that whole sequence plays, you just sit there and you go, wow, man, like, wow. It really was. It was just one of those moments where you're like, this is something I never thought I would see. And obviously, with the original trilogy, that's what Lucas was going for. That's what Lucas did. He defined what it was like to be in space. And when you have that definition delivered, and then you have that definition redefined with CGI and special effects done by the man himself, and it not get really rewarded too well. When you start going into... Let's go back up there. How can we redefine what Star Wars looks like again? That's one of those moments. And it's just a genuinely pleasing sequence to watch. Really showed you what you could do, and it leads to things that we see, in the two JJ and the Ryan Reynolds movies. And those don't happen. Not the two. There's you see what he did for, that sequence, totally has, inspirations, though, to what we see in Last Jedi with Ryan's opening sequence, to even, things that we see with JJ come Rise of the Skywalker, and that Alliance fight above Scarif. Oh, dude, it is just pretty, and it's one of those things that, like, it for me as an adult in a theater for a Star Wars movie, I was like, whoa, completely blown away. So there you go, man. Those are my 5 honorable mentions. Like I said, there are so many moments in the Star Wars, franchise and throughout these 9 movies. It was hard to get down to just 10. And so I gave you 15, 5 honorable mentions. Now we're getting into the good stuff, man. My top 10 Star Wars moments for a little Margarita Monday on May the 4th. What a combo, dude. Like, I woke up this morning and I was just like, oh, May the 4th. Like, I tweeted out about it around midnight last night. All excited knowing that we're going to watch Star Wars with the family. Can't wait to have them watch, like I said before, Rise of Skywalker. And I was just excited, and I go, oh, wait, it's Monday. It's Margarita Monday, and it's May the 4th. Like, this is the best week of the year for me, man. I get May the 4th, Cinco de Mayo tomorrow, so, more margaritas on the way. And then when we get to May 7th, that's my birthday. Like, the first week of May, always my favorite, man. Usually there's baseball going on, things like that. Like, I just get excited about as the warm weather starts to come around, and you couldn't ask for a better day for May the 4th to land on than on Margarita Monday. I have Margarita, talk some Star Wars with all my favorite peeps about some of my favorite material. As I mentioned, as we cruise through our first margarita here, talking about my top 10 moments in the Star Wars. I can't speak today, man. I need a guest to bounce off of, I think, for these things to get my speaking down. And the mustache is really being a pain today. The beard is getting to quite an unkempt place. It's getting kind of wild, but it's just, like I said, one of my favorite franchises of all time, man. And to span these 9 movies, no matter where you fall on any of them, man, right? Like, for me, I love them all because, obviously I have my favorites and they all rank in different spots and what have you. But every Star Wars moment gives you 1, 2, maybe 3 big Star Wars moments, things that go into a top 10 list. And despite any of the flaws, right? Like, we all look at the prequels, even the newest movies, like, oh, well, there's issues. I got issues with them. There's some flaws too in the original trilogy as well, and that's what makes this franchise great, man, because despite any of the ups or downs, I'm here for the content, man. I'm here for those Star Wars moments. And my all-time number 10 favorite moment in the Star Wars saga, the Skywalker saga. I'm sticking it in the new movies, man. Getting them out of the way. Got lots of the older movies coming. Don't you worry. So many great moments to get to, but we're gonna hit one more from the newest trilogy, and once again go back to Rian Johnson's. Again, a movie that I love to death. Outside of the casino bit, like there are so many perfect things with The Last Jedi, and this moment is one of those things, man. I think it's the most recognizable moment from this series of 3 movies, and that is the showdown with Kylo and Rey as they take on the Emperor's guards. In that red room with red stormtrooper guards fighting, fire on the walls at one point. It's just an absolutely stellar thing to look at, first and foremost. And it's the one thing that I think Rian Johnson does successfully start to finish in that movie, is just creating these snapshots that are like murals, whether it be the Red Hall or the skimmers, flying out, on the salt planet with the white and the red, and like I said, that Holdo moment where she goes to light speed through a cruiser. Like, he just knows how to get these shots, man, where you just go, wow. Like, I could hate every moment of this movie and I would still go, wow. And the thing that I love the most about this sequence is just everything that goes into it. It's the most clever moment in the movie for Rian Johnson, that comes right before the fight breaks out. You've got Snoke, and he's pressing Rey, trying to get information, just telling him there's no way you can turn Kylo, and he basically commands Kylo to kill her, and he's talking about, he picks up his lightsaber, he turns his lightsaber, ready to thrust, and he's saying all of these things that you think he's going to do to Rey. I swear to you, man, the first time I saw the movie, I didn't see it. Like, I didn't connect it. I didn't realize what was happening. And yeah, they show you, like, the lightsaber spinning, and you're like, what's going on there? On the second, third time through, you're listening, and you go, oh, man, all the things that Kylo is doing with his actual lightsaber that Snoke can see, he's also manipulating using the Force to get, Luke's lightsaber, the one that Rey's using, to kill Snoke. And it's the most clever piece of writing from Johnson, I think, in the entire film, is like, because Kylo knows Snoke can see both physically and mentally, what's going on, everything he's thinking, everything he's doing. We had just learned that Snoke had created that pathway for the two of them to communicate, via Force cell phone calls, right? And to disguise what he's actually doing, taking, Rey's saber to kill Snoke. Genius. And then you just get into this fight sequence where it's one of these things when I watch the Star Wars movies. There's a different way in which the lightsaber fights happen, right? Like, New Hope, what we see in the lightsaber realm, not great. And then, you get into Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, you get 2 really solid, sequences with Darth Vader and Luke, but it's a little bit more slowly paced, and the movements aren't as fast or crisp as what you see in the prequels with Anakin and Obi-Wan. To when you get to this set, there's a lot more ferocity to the way that like everything they throw can just feel so heavy. They do it the best in Rise of Skywalker, where you see, Kylo and Rey fight, where it's like every swing is every ounce of energy they have, to when they team up together by the end. Now they're going real fast. You're getting the kind of combination of the stuff we can see be done with a lightsaber. But this scene gives you some of the most creative stuff I've ever seen done with a lightsaber. Having Rey drop the saber from one hand to another to get out of something to, cut up a guard. Brilliant. Like I said, that Kylo, like, I'm going to show you what I'm doing here, but I'm also doing this over here so I can cut you in half. Really, really creative, inventive lightsaber stuff. Watching the fight in general, the types of sabers that the Red Guard have, the way they can wrap, like, Rey's lightsaber and pull her in, really, really cool. But my favorite moment in that entire sequence, and not just from a visual standpoint, obviously, like when the flames start going up on the red wall, that's the other thing, too. Like, you don't realize it's a felt wall, or not a felt, but like a cloth wall, until fire starts going. You're like, oh, man, those are just like curtains hanging out there. While all those shots are great, the best moment in this scene is when Kylo calls it over, Rey tosses the lightsaber, he grabs it here and just turns it on and goes right through the dude's head. I was like, oh, things you've never seen done with lightsabers. And the one thing that I will always commend Rian Johnson for when you're talking this, movie in particular, is he went for it, man. He had a vision, and he went for it. And some of it pays off, like moments like Kylo and Rey, fighting the Emperor's Guard. Other moments like that entire casino bit didn't, but he had a vision, and he just went for it. And I think you got way more good out of that going for it than bad. And I genuinely love that sequence because it shows how inventive and how creative Rian Johnson can be within the world of Star Wars, to the point where, I hope he gets another go. I hope they do give him that trilogy to run, because if you just have Rian doing his own trilogy, I think you'd get something that all fans would be on board on. And I'm telling you, like most of these Star Wars movies, people might be down, or you might hear the negative the loudest, but when things kind of settle, people dig, most of these movies. And that's one that I'm telling you just continually sticks out to me. Some of the things he did, specifically with this scene, just show you the types of things that he could do. So number 10 for me is Kylo and Rey versus the Emperor's Guard. And, a little bit of Snoke at the beginning of that. The whole setup is just wonderful. But I digress, as we want to move on now to my number 9. And for me, number 9... it's, another scene, not just individual moments, usually are encompassed in scenes for me, because I love so much. But the Mos Eisley Cantina, as a little kid, man, like, born in 86, so, these movies had been out, and you knew things. But if you have good parents, they don't tell you that, Darth Vader is, Luke's dad, or what an alien is. My first introduction to anything space-oriented was these Star Wars movies, man. My mom, my dad would hunt on the TV guide for when they would pop up. When they would pop up on TV, we'd put them on, we'd record them on a VHS player. And one of those first awe-inspiring moments is walking into that cantina for the first time, man. You want to talk about opening the mind, opening a child's imagination. The first moment you walk into the Mos Eisley Cantina, as a kid, you're just like, wait, what? What is that? What is that, right? Like, even if, I don't know for sure, my memory is not super crystal clear, but even if I had been introduced to aliens in some shape or form prior to watching Star Wars, the thing that you kind of get is, this kind of shaped head with the big eyes. Like, this is what an alien looks like. And George Lucas showed you that aliens could look a whole bunch of different ways. They could all be interesting. Some of them could speak your language. Some of them might not speak your language. It was just like adding more races, to the world. And when you're a kid, man, from the colors and the different designs, you walk into that cantina and it is just a melting pot of the galaxy, man. And it really opens your mind up to just possibilities and things that your imagination doesn't know, when you're a little kid. And that's one of those defining life moments for me, man. Like, I was obsessed with space, obsessed with aliens and things. And I would love to draw. I can't draw a lick whatsoever. But as a kid, I love to draw aliens, because aliens could look like anything you wanted. And that's something that George Lucas gave the world when you walked into the cantina the first time. now also include arguably one of the most iconic Star Wars moments ever takes place in that scene, in the introduction to Han Solo and who shot first with him and Greedo, and the fact that that scene has become so iconic for reasons that are just like, what? You know, the mystery of like who shot first, Greedo or Han, was always something interesting to talk about. And then Lucas, re-released the movies and he touched them up because he had CGI capabilities. And all of a sudden it was very clear that Greedo shoots first and then Han shoots him. And it's like, well, how would Greedo miss him? To the point that even now, when Disney Plus takes it on, there had been another update by Lucas that had never been seen, and when they put it on Disney Plus, everyone was like, whoa, what is this new material? And Disney was like, I don't know, this is how it was given to us. Greedo says McClunky right before he shoots because, giveaway word, McClunky, I'ma shoot your head off, man. Han can move his head, Han shoots second. We all know Han shot first, but however you want to play it, it's one of these moments that was iconic for a small reason has become something so much more. And it's one of the things that I think is fun about Star Wars, man. The fact that a moment like that can exist, and it's a moment that the director has played with multiple times to the point where it's kind of created its own legacy. And it all comes out of that cantina, man. And let alone that cantina is the inspiration to one of my favorite bars on the planet, the Scum and Villainy Cantina, right on Hollywood Boulevard in California. You walk in, man, it's like a nerd haven, dude. Like, Star Wars looking type things all over the place. Nothing licensed there, but, all things that kind of resemble stuff that you would have found in a cantina. And it's just a safe place to talk Star Wars or Marvel movies, and none of that exists or is even possible without the Mos Eisley Cantina. And it's why it comes in from A New Hope in my number 9 spot. And thus, we move on. We move up to number 8, man. And this, again, is just one of those immediate iconic moments. Now, as I mentioned, I did not grow up during the original trilogy. The second trilogy is technically my Star Wars trilogy. Those were my Star Wars movies. Those were the movies I got to go to the theater for. I'll never forget, man, lining up for the Phantom Menace. It was me, my friend Matt Weisberg, and my buddy Jimmy Rowland. We had a sleepover. We got in a toy store, got like all sorts of Star Wars toys. We got our lightsabers. We stood in line to go in to see the movie on a weekend with our lightsabers and stuff, and awe and wonder that I had first watching Star Wars on the TV just magnified tenfold on the big screen. And although I do have my issues with the prequels, Jar Jar Binks was created for kids. I was a kid. I loved every minute of the Phantom Menace as a kid, man. That was my first, that was my Star Wars movie. It was like, yeah, Star Wars exists. I love Star Wars, but this one is mine. I get to experience this one from the get-go. And as a kid, you knew the double lightsaber was a thing because they sold it in stores. And you knew it was going to happen. But when that moment finally arrives, God, I cannot speak to that at all, man. Needs more margaritas, what I need. But, when the moment arises for Darth Maul to reveal that double lightsaber, and finally throw down, man. You go back, you watch Phantom Menace now. This scene is they tease you to this scene the whole movie, man. Oh, here's Darth Maul. He's so cool. He's badass looking. Gotta see him fight. Oh, he gets a little bit of a fight with Obi-Wan. But then they're out. Oh, man, they're trying to get each other, and you just feel it building, and then you get to the Duel of the Fates, man, and you're just as a kid, my mind was blown. I'd never imagined that a lightsaber sequence could look like that, right? I especially now, as I mentioned, rewatching all the movies with my family, the Luke and Darth Vader sequences are pretty good. They're not as slow and terrible as that first Darth and Obi-Wan fight that we get in A New Hope. There is some pretty solid movements to them, and they're pretty good. But I never could have imagined being able to up that game, and then the fact that say what you want about the prequels, but Lucas found a way to up the lightsaber game from that fight sequence. And again, it's anything that ends up on my list, man, it's because it's inventive, it's creative. The idea of a double lightsaber, how that works, how that looks, the way Ray Park, spins around and flips when he's fighting the two of them, the way he's bouncing the lightsabers, just all these things that, like, your eyes just go wide and you're like, wow, man, like, it's one of those moments, immediately, you know that it's one of those moments. And the minute that first lightsaber comes out and then that second one, you're like, oh my gosh, here we go. And you get the dun 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 dun. One of John Williams' best works when it comes to scores. The scoring through that entire sequence is, it's a masterpiece. And it's one of the reasons that scene sticks with you. The way that scene sticks with you, because, it's just glorious, man. It encapsulates everything. And then to not only have the build to these three characters showing down finally start happening, but then to throw in this really, really interesting way to stop the fight and show you who these characters are, man. When you get to those force field walls that end up separating Maul from Qui-Gon and Qui-Gon from Obi-Wan, and you see Maul pacing back and forth like, the hunter that he is, man. Like, Maul's for sure a hunter. Love seeing that, to Qui-Gon just meditating, getting locked in with the Force, ready for whatever the next part of the fight is going to be, to Obi-Wan pacing back and forth, frustrated because he wants to get in there. He wants to fight. He doesn't want to be in the background. He's got FOMO real hard, man. That whole sequence is wonderful. And then you get into the end of it, man, and you get the Qui-Gon death, and you're like, now granted, in retrospect, if I was older, maybe I would have seen it coming, because, there are a lot of things that mirror, A New Hope within that sequence, but as a kid, I didn't see it coming. I was like, wait, they just killed Qui-Gon. And then, you don't figure Ray Park is going to get cut in half. And like two shocking moments within a minute and a half, 2 minute span where, oh my gosh, they killed Qui-Gon, to getting to see some of that rage in Obi-Wan as he fights, to getting knocked down, to having to be clever, always, Jedi, always clever, to able to win the fight. And you just don't expect him to cut the dude in half, because you're probably figuring that Darth Maul is going to be our Darth Vader for the prequels. And boom, gone, just like that. And you just sit there, and again, jaw on the floor, mouth agape, eyes wide, and just go, what happened? Wow, that was amazing. And the Duel of the Fates is just one of those moments that I think for every Star Wars fan, it's just something that's burned into your brain, man, seared in there. And I tell you, speaking of May the 4th, we're getting some hints from Ray Park that he might be coming back again as Darth Maul. This time not Solo, but maybe Mandalorian. You see his tags. A lot of this is the way to the Sith, the Sith symbol. If we, please, man, like the Rebels and Clone Wars cartoons brought Darth Maul back, gave him a story, and you were like, wait, so he wasn't dead? He could have been in all the prequel movie. Why wasn't he in all the prequel movie? Just bring Ray Park back, get him going, get me to see some more live action Darth Maul. I'll be a very, very happy man. But I digress, man. We must continue on as we come down to about 20 minutes left here on this May the 4th, Margarita Monday, little C-Man list for you. But number 7 in my top 10 moments is Darth Vader saving Luke. It's one of these things that this series just constantly new ways to surprise you. And a moment that we will talk about in a little bit that comes in an Empire Strikes Back, or The Empire Strikes Back, is a moment that's like, how do you ever top that moment? Well, how about giving you a sequence that's just balls to the walls, everything you want, coming out of those original Star Wars movies, where, you get Luke and the Emperor kind of getting this conversation throwdown back and forth. That's just really, really strong, conversation and writing, like, for the two of them, to kind of really give you an idea of who they are, the light versus the dark, the Empire versus the Rebels. Like, you're getting all of that, like talking to them about Luke's fate and the fate of the galaxy, all of that in there, then leading to arguably the best the best Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker fight sequence. And that's going, man. And all of a sudden, boom, Darth loses a hand, and you're like, oh, man, they love cutting hands off in these movies. But, again, one of those moments that, kind of reflects another moment from The Empire Strikes Back. You don't see coming. You're like, oh, shoot, that's crazy. Here it comes, man. Luke, right there on the precipice of going dark. He might do it. He could strike his father down. He might kill the Emperor. And, as a kid, you're going, well, they're the bad guys. Like, just do it, Luke. You do not understand that would send him to the dark side. And right before that can go, Luke obviously goes, no, not going to do it. And the Emperor just starts like frying Luke. And you're like, oh, my gosh. Like, we lost Obi-Wan in the first movie. Are we going to kill Luke Skywalker at the end of this trilogy? No, my friend. Darth Vader has one more massive surprise up his sleeve. He picks up, the Emperor. He throws him down that tunnel. We watch him explode, die, or so we thought. Until the Rise of Skywalker happened. Retcon that whole sequence. Kind of takes some of the meaning out of that sequence, which was a little disappointing. But all of that in that moment, man, just what that moment means. Like, again, to be able to surprise the crowd and see that there is some life left in Anakin. It's not all Darth Vader. There is a way for him to get redemption. And then what's really cool is that scene amplifies even more so when you see the prequels and you understand Anakin's story. Because you like Anakin to a degree, and you want him to be able to earn that redemption. So when those movies exist, now that moment holds even more, because you're like, that's the redemption, and we've seen the good in Anakin. Like, that's a cool moment. And just the father and son aspect, and that, like, you wouldn't have expected Darth Vader to be the one to save the day. And it's just, again, it's one of those iconic sequences. That whole scene and setup, in the second Death Star, as Luke, fights Darth and the Emperor, and that climax, it's just, what better way could you have ended, a movie than an Ewok celebration? I guess would be the only way to end the movie better, and we get that. But that moment, man, when Darth saves Luke, you're like, wow, dude, like, it all comes together. You've gotten your feet under you from the massive reveal that they're family, and here's this moment where Darth is able to, find that redemption, and we get to see his face. He gets to look Luke in the eyes. All of those things just wonderful, and all stems from him picking up the Emperor, getting electrocuted, and tossing him over the edge to just disappear for a while, I guess. But we move on. So there's number 7. Number 6 might be the most iconic thing. That's the great thing. Everything on this list, to a degree, you could argue might be the most iconic thing from Star Wars. But one that just immediately pops when you say Star Wars, you think of Luke in that X-Wing, flying down that trench, man, and that entire, again, I'm about sequences, not just moments, but that whole Death Star trench sequence is amazing, man. From red and gold leader, to the teamwork, to the loss of some of the rebels, to setting the moment up for Luke, to put the technology aside, use the Force, gonna blow up the Death Star, to Darth Vader hunting him down, man. About to take him out, and then pew, pew, get a couple shots. Who shows up but the cowboy himself, Han Solo, and you hear him just go, yeah! Love, like, again, one of those, like, you jump out of your seat moments. Even now as a grown man, seeing these movies so many times, I still jump out when Luke, when Han shows up to save Luke, and kind of knocks Darth Vader off and goes, you're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and head home. Like, like, that is Star Wars, man. It's the climax of the first movie. It is the Star Wars, it's that moment where it's like, holy cow, one shot into an air duct could blow up the Death Star. Wonder why that would be. We got an entire movie that's amazing. Rogue One, I love Rogue One. We got some Rogue One in here. Don't you worry, folks. We're going to get you a little Rogue One taste. But it's just one of those things where it just encompasses everything that you want out of Luke. Really gives you the arc. You get to see how great of a pilot he is. And all these things that the movie is building just executed to perfection in that moment into the Death Star trench run. And, my number 6 moment of all time for Star Wars. Now it's time to get into the top 5. And, the number 5 is one of my absolute favorite moments in any of the Star Wars movies. When this movie is on, if it's anywhere near this, I stop everything I'm doing and I watch Obi-Wan versus Anakin. in the Revenge of the Sith. Oh my gosh, dude! Like, it was. We all know the prequels had their problems. They had their ups and their downs. You had a fan base that was a little rocky coming off of, Attack of the Clones. And now you're selling us that, like, this is going to be the movie that sets up Darth Vader. You're going to see that showdown, Obi-Wan and Anakin. That's going to end up turning Anakin into a freaking robot named Darth Vader. We know that's going to happen, man. It's a big bill of goods. Like, huge expectations. And not only did they deliver, but it's the best action sequence in any Star Wars movie. Like, when it comes to lightsaber fights, the Anakin Obi-Wan fight sequence in Revenge of the Sith is bar none the best, man. What Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor can do with lightsabers is insane. And that's one of the things that makes the scene so great is it's them, pretty much that whole sequence, whipping those things around. I mean, there's that shot. I'll throw it up in the TV, man. It's a GIF where you just see the two of them twirling, and they stop for a minute and just keep going. Like, the speed is just insane, and the whole fight is like that, man. It never lets off the gas, and when you think it's off the gas, boom, you get hit with something else. And the other thing, too, iconic for Star Wars, you get a moment where you just want to watch that, right? We have action movies now where it's like 15 minutes nonstop. That's what you want. Star Wars always cutting back to something else. And the great thing here is the stuff you're cutting back to is the Emperor versus Yoda, which is not quite as much fun as Obi-Wan and Anakin, but it's just as enjoyable, man. To watch Yoda whipping around with that lightsaber is just, it's wonderful, but you can't touch what Obi-Wan and Anakin, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen do, and that whole sequence, man. I mean, the fact that it starts with one of the two most iconic lines to ever come out of Ewan McGregor's mouth when he goes, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. Like, one of those things that pops, and then the fight ends with Obi-Wan giving you another piece of iconic, with the, you were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. Like, don't do this. It's just, it is the perfect build to what that relationship is, to what those characters have brought, to the chemistry that those two actors have had. It all is built to that moment, and that moment, take my freaking money, baby. It just hits every beat that you want that sequence to have. And you just sit there and go, there's the birth of Darth Vader, and it's perfect. Like, it is, maybe how you get there, it happens a little quick for Anakin, whatever you want to say. That moment in and of itself is the perfect birth to what Darth Vader is. I love that scene. Anytime it's on, and you're on that molten lava planet, so that the visuals are just amazing. It was hard for me to have that just be number 5, because it is one of my favorite moments. But there are 4 that I like a little bit more than that. And number 4 is maybe my favorite Han Solo moment of all time. He's captured. He's about to be frozen in carbonite. What does our guy do? He does the most Han thing he can do. He bounces off, gets one more kiss in with Leia, and then as he, gets taken back to be dumped in, Leia goes, I love you. Han just looks at her and goes, I know. The most G move that Han could have had. Man, the most Han moment of Han moments. It's just like, it's one of those things like when you're building in a trilogy like this and, you have that romantic relationship between these two characters, characters that everybody loves, 2 characters that you've been waiting to see them say those words. And Leia finally does it, and Han just doesn't skip a beat. He's like, I know. Like, it's just perfect. Like, it sums up everything that Han Solo is. And then to be able to play with that, come Return of the Jedi, and the fact that he has, some guilt to that, and, he knows that he doesn't do things the right way, specifically with Leia. But in that moment, man, it just sums up both of them so well. Like, Leia could very easily have been like, are you serious? That's how you're gonna go out? But no, she understands what that means in that moment, and the look on Carrie Fisher's face is priceless. So she's like, it's like you see it like processing in her brain, and it's like, well, Han, that is how Han would say I love you. And it's one of those quintessential moments that just totally sum up that relationship, and the way those two are, even to the point that when they are older and grown and in these newer movies, all of that exists, and it's the way they are, man. And it's just one of those perfect little tiny, that's a legitimate moment. And it's just one I love every time it happens. You just kind of sit there and you just say, it's just Han, man. That's how Han would do it. And that is, of course, number 4. For me, and, not just the characters, but even, it just sums up, I think, the chemistry between Ford and Fisher, and how you'd hope they would get along on set. You could see how the two of them could play, and it just encompasses everything. But now we move into our final 3. 10 minutes left in today's pod. We got 3 moments left, and are they all real good ones. And remember, I said we were going to come back to Rogue One. Well, we have arrived. This moment might be the 45 greatest seconds ever shot in any Star Wars movie. Ever, man. We're at the end of Rogue One. We're literally getting up to, oh my god, the plans, the Death Star plans are in tow. They are headed on their way to Leia. We know exactly where we're going. And right as they're about to get out there and get those plans to where they got to get, the door stops moving. And then all of a sudden you just kind of feel it. You feel the presence. And everybody looks. And you hear the... And then the red lightsaber lights up. And Darth Vader is freaking... Dude, you want to talk about freaking out in a movie theater? Well, I went to go see Rogue One, and this moment, we get to this moment, and it starts happening, dude. I was like, oh my god. Oh, you hear that... And the lightsaber comes on, you're like... Oh, what is going to happen? I don't even know what's going to happen. We get the most badass 45 seconds that Darth Vader's ever seen on camera. It's the most perfect 45 seconds of Darth Vader ever on camera, dude. My man just clears this hallway out at the end of Rogue One. And for the first time ever, you get to see Darth Vader looking like the Darth Vader you know, but acting the way we learned Anakin was by the time he flipped to the dark side, man. You see that ferocity. You see the enjoyment that he has in what he's doing, man. The way he, can fight with the lightsaber. Lightsaber fight looking great, man, as he's just mowing these dudes down to his force choking people like we all know him to. But the moment that gets me, man, I geek out every time it happens in this movie, is when he force grabs the dude, throws him on the wall. And you want to talk about enjoyment. You don't do something like this unless you enjoy what you're doing, man. He pins him to the ceiling, and then as he's fighting other dudes, cuts him in half. It is everything you could have ever wanted from Darth Vader, to the point where, you see that moment, and you just sit there and go, man, can we get, a whole movie where Darth Vader does stuff like this? It is just the perfect combination of all of his powers, of everything we learned watching the prequel trilogy, everything we know about what he is after this moment, and it just all comes together to, I'm scared of this guy, right? The choke, when he chokes people in the original trilogy, yeah, it's scary, and, he's got some good fights, but I'm never really scared. That hallway sequence, you feel the fear that all the people in that hallway feel, and you understand why people were so why he was so feared by people. It's exquisite. It is the most perfect sequence for me in any Star Wars movie ever. I rewatched it before I came down here, man, while I was doing my notes, and I was just repeat, man, just repeat. It's from the to the lightsaber to just what he does, and you just sit there and you're, again, jaw on floor, what? Wow. And it's the best thing Kathleen Kennedy has contributed to the Star Wars universe was Rogue One in general. That movie is amazing. And the things that they pull off in that movie, but to give us that scene, it just, whew. So that is number 3. And you go, how? You hear me talk about it. How is that not number 1 or number 2? Well, number 2 comes from, again, one of those feelings is when you're a kid. Something you don't know anything of. You have no reference for. But you always hear, people traveling in space and stuff, and light speed or warp speed. All of those things exist. You watch Star Trek, and you don't necessarily realize it so much as a little kid, but, you become an adult and you go, oh my gosh, it all comes back to this moment. And then you remember as a kid seeing that moment, and again, your eyes just going, what? Like, this is a thing? The first time that the Millennium Falcon jumps to light speed is just a moment that it gets me. It gets me every time it comes on. One, it's just an absolutely wonderful sequence in the lead up for, Obi-Wan, R2, C-3PO, Luke, Han, and Chewie. They're all there. They're trying to get off of Tatooine, as stormtroopers are coming. And you got, jokes coming from C-3PO, like, oh man, I hate being on spaceships, something to that effect. You have Han and Chewie going back and forth so nonchalantly about getting out of here, even though there's danger. There doesn't seem to be any urgency to what they're doing. They're just doing what they got to do, prepping for light speed. And that back and forth is just like they're one mind. You get to see that one-mindedness between Han and Chewie. And then you have Luke freaking out. Like, we don't have any time. You said this is the fast. Like, isn't this thing supposed to be fast? Han putting him in his place. Like, what? You bite your tongue and you're going to be floating home, kid. Don't you badmouth the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, she's fast. We just got to get her ready. And then, at this rate, like, they're going to catch up to us. So you got to get out. Luke just being worrisome. And Han going, no problem. Let's go to lightspeed. And then you see. And that visual is something that, reverberates through all of time. From there on forward. Any type of warp speed, light speed, fast moving, spaceship stuff. That's your look. That's what lightspeed looks like. It was invented. Boom. Right there. And it is. You might go, that's high. Pretty high on the list to put it 2. But again, it's one of those things that just opens your imagination and defined something that we see in movies all the time now. Anytime, they might not look exactly like the stars turned into those white lines, but that feeling of a light speed jump, whether it's Guardians of the Galaxy or Star Trek, you name it, all comes from right there. It's one of the most iconic moments in movie, in cinema history that I feel like people don't talk about a lot. And again, the fact that you get that chemistry between Ford and Hamill, and you're starting to understand the relationship that you're going to get with these two characters, with their their posse around them. It's a wonderful scene as they kind of get out of there. And then again, that visual of going to lightspeed is just, wow, man, like so cool. And now we've reached number 2. We've gone all the way through our list. We had our 5 honorable mentions. Chewie gets a medal. General Holdo goes to light speed. Speaking of light speed, circular things. The opening Star Wars crawl, of course, the detention center shootout, and Leia saving the day, having to save everybody's skin, and then the Alliance attacking on Scarif. Those are my 5 honorable mentions. Then we get number 10, Kylo and Rey versus the Emperor's Guard. We've got 9, the Cantina, man. It just one of those iconic things in that whole moment. Just like one of those things, like I said, as a kid, just opens your imagination. So the Cantina is at 9. The Duel of the Fates from Phantom Menace comes in at number 8, one of my favorite lightsaber battles of all time. Darth Vader saving Luke every time. You just don't think Darth Vader's got enough tricks or surprises up his sleeve. He surprises you. And saving Luke in just one of those moments where you're like, oh! It's got to be on the list, and it's at number 7, baby. The Death Star trench run. I mean, it was what, the Star Wars movie. That's when you think the first Star Wars, you think A New Hope. Luke in that X-Wing, flying through the Death Star. Han saving him from Darth Vader. All those things, boom, right there in that scene's number 6. Number 5, Obi-Wan versus Hanae-Kun, Revenge of the Sith. We see the birth of the true Darth Vader and get one of the best lightsaber fights you will ever see, ever, in any medium. Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor can never give those two guys enough props. Number 4, the I love you to Han's I know. Just the most Han and Leia moment you could have in the Star Wars movies, and it is just one that always makes me laugh and smile because it's just Han being Han. Leia would admit her love, and he would go, I know. Number 3, the Darth Vader hallway scene. It's the most perfect 45 seconds you'll ever see in a Star Wars movie. It's the most badass Darth Vader stuff we've ever had, ever. It is the quintessential Darth Vader sequence, and it probably deserves to be higher, but it comes in at number 3 for me. And number 2, which we just talked about, is that first jump to lightspeed, man. It's something you'd never seen before, and it defined what lightspeed was for generations to come and movies to come. Now we get to the number 1 moment. The end of our Margarita is upon us in our Luke Skywalker Empire Strikes Back Coca-Cola glass. We have reached the number one, and there is only one moment that can be number one on a list like this. Come on, baby. You know where we're going. You know, the Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He said you killed him. No, I am your father. Oh my gosh. It's the line that broke the way the cinema worked, man. The idea of that shocking twist reveal right at the end. Like, people always point to M. Night nowadays. Oh, the king of the twist. You know, the shocking reveal at the end of a movie. That's what M. Night does. M. Night don't do none of that if Darth Vader doesn't utter the words, I am your father, to Luke Skywalker. It's the most iconic moment in the franchise. Like, the big... And it's one of those things, like, I say to my parents all the time, like, I can't imagine what it was like to get that reveal in real life, right? Like, no social media, no internet. What was that like to be in a movie theater for something like that could be hidden to the point that, like, when the movie comes out, you can see the movie 2 weeks later and maybe never hear that Darth Vader is Luke's dad. Like, to have a moment like that, I would crush for it, because as a kid, blown away, man. Like, you sit there and I remember, like, turning to my parents going, wait, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker? How is that a fit? Come on. You know, it's the quintessential Star Wars moment. There could be no other number one. And like I said, it's one of the most shocking reveals of all time. Like, in all the twists in any movie. And maybe it's one that might be kind of downgraded now, because I think anyone getting into Star Wars, I feel like that's spoiled pretty early on, because it's, you know, it's from one of the first two movies. So it's been around for so long that at this point I think it's really hard from a pop culture standpoint to not know that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad. So when you learn, especially if you watch the movies in order, like, you understand, oh, Anakin Skywalker, like, there's Luke, oh, he's Darth Vader. It's hard to replicate that unless you have awesome parents who know to give you the original trilogy first, so that you can feel that feeling. And especially as a kid, like, the bad guy is the good guy's dad. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. And, you know, like I said, whether you saw it when it actually happened, and I can only imagine what that must have been like. Like, you imagine walking out of the theater that first night going, I gotta wait how long to see what's next? You know, or to, like I said, if you had good parents that showed you those first, you know, or you were growing up in a time before the prequels hit, you get to that moment. It is one of the most shocking moments in all of film history, man. You never in a million years see that one coming. And let alone, it's just set up so wonderfully, right? Like, the way Lucas sets up that reveal. You get this awesome fight sequence between Darth and Luke. The first look at what a good lightsaber fight choreography sequence could look like. And it's a badass one, man. Like, I love watching that sequence, to the point that it builds to Luke getting his hand cut off. And again, as a kid, you're going, I didn't know that the good guy could get hurt that bad. Like, it cut his hand clean off. And that's the shocker, man. You're like, holy crow, they just cut off his, not just a hand, his dominant hand, his lightsaber-wielding hand. Gone. How much crazier can it get? And then just the build, that entire delivery, man, from James Earl Jones, you know, talking about, like, you know, join me, Luke, like, together, you know, we'll complete your training to the dark side, and we can rule the galaxy. And you have all this build, and he's like, no, I'll never join you. And then he's like, you know, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. And Luke's like, he said you killed him. And now, granted, it's misquoted all the time, right? Luke, I am your father. It's no, I am your father. And that delivery, it's even better than Luke, I am your father. But it reverberates generations. You know, you feel the waves and the effects of that moment in cinema history. You know, the idea of a reveal like that, all of these things, it's the most iconic Star Wars moment. And I don't care what you say, man. Like, if you got to experience that moment real, like in a real way, where you didn't know that was going to come and it happens, it's still, to this day, for me, one of the most shocking moments in all of film history. And it is the quintessential thing. If you say Star Wars, probably the thing that comes to everybody's mind first is, oh my gosh, Darth Vader is Luke's dad. That, no, I am your father. And it is. It's just that there could be no other number one on a list like this. So there you go, man. Happy May the 4th. We've reached the end of old Seaman top 10 list. My top 10 plus 5 honorable mention moments from the Star Wars saga on May the 4th. It was the only thing I could think to do for the pod today. We actually... have some more with Sue Vancino for next week. At the end of our conversation last week, we signed off and then we kept talking, and I just let Zoom keep recording. And by the time we got to the end, we talked for another hour. So we got another episode with Sue Vancino of Knock next week. But when it comes to Star Wars, as much as I love to talk about Star Wars, the only thing appropriate for this week's Margarita Monday Meetup was to talk my favorite Star Wars moments. We've gone through all 15 of my favorites. Now, I want to know what you're thinking, man. You sat down, you've listened to me blabber for an hour about Star Wars, just a franchise I adore. And is the first day in the first week of May. It just gets me excited, man. I love May the 4th. Star Wars Day is fantastic. So now I want to know all sorts of things from you guys, man. How have you been enjoying your Margarita Monday? Hopefully kicking it with us a little bit. What type of Star Wars activities were you getting in today? How did you celebrate May the 4th? And then what are your favorite Star Wars moments, man? What things are the things that rise to the top of your head when you think Star Wars? The first things that come to mind. How far off am I on some of the things in my list? What would you change? Is there a moment where you go, see, man, you're crazy? Well, let me know. Anything you're thinking about my list, where Star Wars moments rank for you, all of it goes down below in the comment section. If you've never seen a Star Wars movie, you don't really celebrate May the 4th, I don't know why you're here, but if you've watched this whole video, I'm sorry, we spoiled some major things. Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. He said it right to him. But if you came along for the ride today, maybe this is your first in on Star Wars. Let me know, man. Do you want to go watch all these movies now? You want to get into Star Wars? Is this something you're interested in? Could you not care? Anything you're thinking about Star Wars, about May the 4th, about your favorite moments or movies, put it down below in the comments section. I look forward to talking to you guys down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man every Margarita Monday, want to pour one of your own into a nice Luke Skywalker, maybe a Han Solo Coca-Cola glass, get your sip on with an ice cold margarita or whatever drink of your choice, and you want to come join me every Monday for whatever it is we're talking about. I've guessed, like I said, back next week. And moving forward, we got some things cooking in the works that I'm excited about. You want to be here for that, have it slide up right into your, your feed. Jump over there, man. Hit that little subscribe button. And if you want the alerts to know immediately when I drop my Margarita Monday Meetup podcasts, most of the time it's either late Monday or early Tuesday. You get them. But if you want to be the first to know, hit that little bell that follows and you'll get alerts every time I drop a new video, podcast, whatever it be, here on the YouTube channel. That little bell will send you an alert, and you can be one of the first to peep what we're talking about week by week here on the Monday Margarita. No, that's not right. Here on the Margarita Monday Meetups. Thank you for joining me on this special May the 4th Star Wars Day edition. And as we sign off, we gotta finish our margarita. Now Margarita Monday is officially in the books. And so is another edition of the C-Man Cinema Sitdown. For the C-Man Cinema Sitdown, I am the C-Man. And I am signing off. May the 4th be with you. Peace.
Well, as I live and breathe, you still here? Check out a video like this one or this one. And hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the C-Man's got at the Cinema Sitdown.